Breath together. So this month, we're looking at spiritually motivated moral leadership as we go into an election year. Now, we're not going to talk specifically about politics, but we are going to talk about what's spiritual, what's moral, and what's leadership. And today's specific topic is leading from the heart. And there's a huge difference of leading with the heart versus leading from the heart. The heart, most of us, when we hear that word, recall our 10th grade anatomy class, biology. Heart, in a different sense, and in our physical sense really, is the central or innermost part of something. The central or innermost part of something. In our physical being, the heart is really the core, the essence of our physical being. Without it, there's no circulation. Without it, there's no oxygenization. Where did that word come from? I might have just made that up. Of our physical being. And similarly, spiritually, the heart of us is the soul of us. That creative essence that was literally born into us. It is first cause, it is source, it is divinity itself at the very center of our spiritual being. And without that, there is no circulation. Without that, there is no creation. Without that, there is no physical form of us. And how easy it is to get lost in the physical form of us and forget what really is propelling us. Now, what we teach and what I have borne out through experience is that if I think what lives underneath my skull is the center of my being, I am in very much trouble. Because I start thinking that the physical form dictates my experience. And it doesn't. The physical form is evidence of my faith and belief. It is evidence of my relationship with the heart of me. And oftentimes, it is a dance to reframe and reframe and reframe. Especially when what shows up in form is different than what we think we're thinking. Okay. Now, I put it that way because oftentimes we are blissfully ignorant of what we're actually thinking. We have thoughts operating at the subconscious level that we have no idea are actually being held in our belief system. That's how karma shows up, the tendencies of humanity, if you will, not individual karma. It's that place where belief systems move themselves forward generation after generation after generation, and they're simply accepted as just the way it is. Interesting definitions of moral if you look them up in the dictionary. It's a lot about power. It's a lot about right and wrong. It's a lot about good and evil. And in oneness, there is no evil. Doesn't mean we can't engage in evil behavior. And I want to make that distinction really clear, because we are empowered to use the creative process however we choose. That is literally the free will that we have. We can misuse principle to create evil behavior if we choose. There's nothing in the universe that will stop us, because to stop the free will is to stop its own creation. And it just doesn't happen that way. I suggest this definition for moral: holding or manifesting high principles for proper conduct. To live from principle. Principle being the unchangeable truth of creation. Now, because it's invisible, sometimes we wrestle with, how do we know what's true and what's not? Analytic psychology, analytic philosophy, analytic math all give us some clues. Was it true in the past? Is it true now? And as far as we can see, will it continue to be true into the future? Because if it meets those three things, we can count on it being true. Is it true every time we try it? Does it work? Okay. We plant a seed. If you plant watermelons, the soil gives you watermelons. Okay. And then that watermelon gives you more seeds to plant more watermelons. Except in the case of seedless watermelons, and I'm not sure how that happens. I've been wrestling with that one for days. It's like, how do we regenerate seedless watermelons? How do we do that? I don't know. I suspect some of you master gardeners know. Please come tell me. But what I know is that the creative process works. That what we plant, we grow. Okay? And just like one watermelon seed produces multiple watermelons, our singular thought produces in multiplicity as well. And so this idea that we can just hold something in consciousness for one portion of creation that won't impact all of creation isn't true. And it can't be true in oneness, because in order for some element of creation to be outside of the impact zone suggests two-ness, at the very least. Okay. I like the big toe analogy. You bump your big toe on your couch in the middle of the night, there's no part of your body that doesn't recognize that bump. Okay? And it's just the same way in creation. So what we each hold in our belief impacts the whole of creation. Why is that important? Because when we're acting from principle, we can be really assured that we're acting in the best interest of the whole. Now, does that mean everyone's going to agree with you? No. Any of you that have seen the movie Harriet? There's not everybody agreed with her. Okay. But Harriet Tubman was leading from the heart. And it didn't matter what anybody else thought. When I saw that movie the other day, it touched a lot of places in me, some of which are not even appropriate for this talk. But the thing that really stuck with me is, as a spiritual leader, what am I willing to die for? What do I hold so completely? What am I so dedicated to that I am willing to risk everything, even my own physical breath, to say yes to that divine calling within me? Even when the people that are following rebel. That portion in the movie where she pulled the gun and said, "You will live free or die," that's historically accurate, folks. She was not playing. You as an individual, was her message, as an individual, you don't get to risk everybody out of your fear. You don't get to do that. And what I took away from that was a deeper calling that as a minister, as a spiritual leader, where are the places where I am allowing fear to compromise my leadership? Where am I unwilling to stand in, "You don't like me," to lead? Where am I willing to stand in those uncomfortable conversations where you might go away if I follow the leadership of my heart? Where am I willing to stand in, this community could fire me if I follow my heart? Because all of those things are real. Now, truth be told, when I really get underneath, most of it is imagined. Okay? Most of it is imagined, and it's imagined from scenarios, from narratives that I'm writing from the past. From form to spirit rather than from spirit to form. And how often do we get stuck in that? Every one of you is a leader. Every one of you. In the political realm, everyone is a leader because you have a vote. And what would change if our entire country, if everyone that had the power to vote voted from their heart rather than from our heads, rather than from our agendas, from our human agendas? Even if we just voted outside of our fear, wow, what would change? We'd still not get all what we want. Newsflash, none of us are going to get everything we want. Because that's just how it works. Okay? My right arm gets something different than my left arm. It's supposed to work that way. Otherwise, we'd all just be little robots. And how boring would that be? Okay? But are we willing to stand in the conversation? Are we willing to stand in the differences and celebrate them? In our own community, are we willing to engage in questions, in curiosity, more than "I want my way"? I don't know. Some days I don't know where I fit into that. Some days I wake up and I'm all open and let's talk about anything and I'm totally an infinite possibility. And other days I wake up and it's a disaster and I wake up with a narrative of catastrophic failure for all of us. For no apparent reason other than I woke up and there it was. The beauty is we're at choice. See, we can dive deeper into that narrative, or we can tell truth to lies. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, in Science of Mind on page 322. The manifest universe is a result of the self-contemplation of Creator. Our world of affairs is the result of our self-contemplation. Now, what he's talking about there is not the contemplation of Rafe. He's talking about the contemplation of the soul, the inner self, the heart of us. Because when we go there, we can celebrate differences. We move so far beyond tolerance and acceptance to where we actually look at one another and see this incredible magnificence of intentional diversity. I mean, I'm looking at each of you. There's no two alike. Thank God I don't have a pair of twins out here today, because otherwise I couldn't say that. But how magnificent. We had a conversation Wednesday about what came up for folks after they saw the movie Harriet. And oh my God, what a courageous conversation. The folks that were there stepped into this place of inquiry and honesty that was messy and difficult and brilliant and healing. Because there was enough courage in the room to say, I have this belief operating in the background that's driving this behavior, and I know it's not true. I'm walking around with fear dictating my behavior because of your skin color, and I know it's not true. And I don't know how to stop it. We had other people talk about beliefs that they were embarrassed that they even have. It was amazing, because that's where the healing is. Can we be done with the secrets that are keeping us stuck? Can we let go of the past to move into a greater now? Honestly, I don't care about the future. I care about now. If I am diligent in the now, the future will take care of itself. I can't be there anyway. Lord knows I spent a lot of years trying to be in the future, and every time I'm in the now. Here's what we do, though. It's like we're all playing spiritual basketball. Okay? Now, if you know anything at all about basketball, when you stop dribbling, you establish a pivot foot. And if you move that pivot foot without passing the ball, it's a penalty. We're not playing basketball. We have to move our pivot foot, because the pivot foot keeps me safe in yesterday. See, I'm going to step into a new now, but I got my pivot foot, so I know where to go back to if things get a little dicey here. Okay? We lie. The first step is the hardest. No, it's not. We take the first step all the time. There we go. First step. Got it. First step. But notice, my pivot foot has me deeply anchored in my perceived safety zone. I invite you to consider that quite possibly the second step is the hard one. Because now I have changed my anchor. I've uplifted my anchor. I no longer have that point of reference to go back to when I get uncomfortable. That's the growth, folks. We have to step out of our comfort zone if we're going to grow. If we're going to grow individually, get out of your comfort zone. If we're going to grow as a community, we have to move beyond our comfort zone. If we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. I don't know about you, but I want more. I want more. I don't want more stuff. Trust me, I do not want more stuff. This is mostly to the universe. No more stuff. I am in the process of throwing away stuff. I have a beautiful deck that is a storage unit. No more stuff. Okay? We don't need stuff. What we need is to access the soul within us. It already knows what you need. It gives you ideas. It gives you motivation. So many of us think that this process of creation is to manifest form. It's to manifest a greater experience of you. And sometimes that involves form. On the same page, 322, Ernest Holmes says this: since the law is mental, one must believe in it in order to have it work affirmatively for them. Listen closely. But it is always working according to our belief, whether we are conscious of this truth or not. Every one of us has a belief system. Every one of us has beliefs. And what challenges us is our refusal to look deeply, undefendedly at the beliefs that are operating in our lives. As a nation, it shows up in all forms of supremacy. It shows up in male supremacy, in straight supremacy. It shows up as white supremacy. And then when it's challenged, it shows up as fragility. It shows up as the most ugly, defended behavior. It shows up as religious supremacy. It shows up as supremacy bottom to top, top to bottom. And what I'm encouraging us to look at today is what belief, any belief, and I mean this, any belief where you separate yourself from any element of creation, it's got to go. It's got to go. It is time to clean our consciousness. It is time to clean our belief system. Because in oneness, there is no place of supremacy. There is no place of separation. There is no otherness. There is no better than, less than. There is no richer or poorer. There is no, they want to be that way or they'd be different. None of those things exist in oneness. And so my call to each of us this morning is to lead from the very heart of you, from the very essence of you, the soul of you, which knows that it is the soul of everything, that knows that there's no separation, and allow that, as our affirmation says, to inform your behavior. Allow the essence of you to inform your thoughts, to inform your movement. We not only have a duty to heal, we have an opportunity to heal. Can we move it from we have to heal to we get to heal? Because we don't, as we say in my country, I ain't better got to do nothing. But I get to. I don't have to, I get to. Your opportunity is now. take it. Let's take this into prayer. What I know to be true is that there is one infinite, ever-present source. That it is the very essence of all life. It is the breath that I breathe. It is the mind in which I think. It is that place of accuracy that informs my soul of the truth of my being. What is true of me is true of all. And so I speak my word this morning, knowing that the word spoken as me is divinity speaking, claiming and affirming an illumination of every soul to the truth of its being, claiming and affirming a rising up from the heart that recognizes itself in every individualized form. A rising up and an awakening of the creation within every one of us that recognizes that every form of creation is a magnificent, brilliant, exquisite expression of divinity itself. And that all life steps into that place of recognition of, wow, what a beautiful expression of creation you are. That as we encounter each expression, we have that holy wow moment that knows that what we are each seeing is a divine expression of the one. That we are simply meeting another expression of ourselves in form. And that as we meet ourselves, we expand our experience of the soul traveling within this physical body. That we celebrate. That the idea of tolerance and acceptance becomes an obliterated idea of history. And that we know only celebration, only affirmative welcoming of every expression of divinity. That within all of humanity is made manifest that same activity of the heart, made manifest by the example of Harriet Tubman. That we are willing to risk everything on the human level to follow that divine nudge of who we know ourselves to be. Grateful for this opportunity. Grateful for the truth that I get to live the greatest expression of creation as me. Grateful that I get to witness creation expressing itself with pure abandon in brilliance and multiplicity and diversity. And so from this place of gratitude, I release my word into that activity of love and law that already said yes, is already making it so. And I invite you to join me as we anchor this together by saying, and so it is.